I'm Ranu.
I'm Duran.
We have a special guest today,
Hey,
Erik.
Erik Cabetas, founder and CEO of Include Security.
Oh yeah, he's awesome. So you guys haven't already, go follow him on LinkedIn and any other social medias you may have.
Oh, I'm not on anything.
Oh man, well, you're not even on LinkedIn either. Well, at least your company, right?
Yeah,
So,
the company's got full representation on everything, but
okay.
I've been offline.
All right. Well, he's not online, but he will be on here. So
It's a good
check
way
him
to
out.
be.
But anyways, anybody see Spider-Man this week or last week?
No, but
Oh,
I've heard
man,
good things.
I'm the only one that's seen this. Like, come on. Like, every time. Like it. By the way, no spoilers here, but it was great. So if you guys haven't, you definitely should go see it. If you haven't seen Hawkeye, people should go see Hawkeye. I'm a very big Marvel person, but if you haven't seen Hawkeye on Disney Plus, definitely go check it out. I think the last episode 6, will be this week. So definitely need to check it out if you're big into Marvel. If you guys checked anything else, any special movies, any books you guys are reading, anything interesting?
It's the end of Q4 and I'm working consulting, so I look at SOWs and reports.
Oh well, I guess I'm the only one that don't do any work here.
No. Yeah. I mean, I've been working proposals and other stuff a lot lately. Similar rationale behind that. But I did see Money Heist. I finished seeing Money Heist, I should say. And it was actually I liked it. I mentioned this before. I have to hand it to Spain. They get mocked and derided across Central and South America for good reason, because normally their television and movies not so good, but their Netflix ones phenomenal.
It reminds me of another movie or another show when I see Money Heist, especially with the mask. It's like those typical thing, but it was pretty good. I will say that. But when I first looked at it, I was like, at a glance, I was like, no, this looks like your typical movie, like show or series. But I've been fooled kind of lately, especially with all of the other series, and they seem to have a lot of Korean series coming on Netflix now. Some of them are good, and some of them are just totally ridiculous. I have to send you guys it, but it's ridiculous.
You like the
But
romance?
I live in
uh,
a former bank,
uh,
and they're doing the Money Heist experience right now in my building, where
oh wow.
they have actors and they try and enact like part of the show. I haven't seen it at all, but there's people screaming and robberies happening constantly in my building.
Holy crap. That has to be pretty cool. I mean, the cool part about being in a bank.
I was gonna say, what do you live in New York?
I do live in New York City. Yes, I do live in New York City.
Holy crap.
I've heard some things. What with all the masks?
Holy crap. That's cool. Like, very cool. But anyway, again, if you guys haven't checked those episodes out, but we do have a cool episode today and a good topic, and I'll let Duran go off on that one.
So, Erik, if you would do us a favor, I'd like it if you could kickstart us off on some of the most ridiculous things you think, and this could be funny or this could be bad ridiculous, within our industry, and you can take that wherever you want to go, be it penetration testing, application security in general, whatever. And if you want to make fun of Apache, I'm all for it.
No more log4j, please.
How many times are they going to patch this? This is like struts all over again. I don't know if you were there for the 2017 strut stuff, but patch, because they can't fix it.
Yeah, struts 2. Remember, struts 1, good struts. Struts 2, bad struts.
Log4j is turning out very similar.
Yeah, you got the script kiddies going wild.
Yeah, really? We had some clients that were patched before the weekend. We had other clients that are just like, oh, we just heard about this over a week later.
I've been living in a rock.
Yeah. But let's see, things that are funny. I don't know. I've been in this industry going on 20 years now, and things that were funny haha to me are now just like tears down my face.
I know. That's so true.
You know, like there's always a new named vulnerability, especially this year. Like how many have we had this year?
Yes.
The first half of the year, so many named vulns, so many big breaches. And I don't know if you guys saw it, but a response to all of that is everybody started increasing their budgets, doing more pen testing, increasing all their assurance activities. And just this year, just everything went up. A lot more than past years. It always goes up every year, but that's something I noticed from my end. What about you guys?
Well, before I respond, out of curiosity, how much do you think of that is tied to the fiasco, the mess that we saw that was 2020, where because people started going remote, all of a sudden Zoom, which wasn't as big of a target before, was getting beaten up almost daily. And then you saw a lot of the VPN software get similar attention, all these bugs coming out of them, major vulnerabilities. And so you start seeing, because there has been a huge outpouring and uptick in funding to our industry, and salaries have been flying through the roof.
Yeah, and Google and Microsoft said that they're going to commit $30 billion in funding. I would love to see how that is going to be put into the industry.
Yes.
I could see them make good use of it. Like if they started some institute for open security training, free training, and brought the whole industry up, it wouldn't take more than maybe $10 million to create a really amazing training institute for free for the whole world and bring up cyber worldwide. But of the $30 billion, would they spend 10 million to do that? I don't think it's going to happen.
No, I think you're right. Unfortunately, my suspicion is where they're going to dump most of the money is in absolutely meaningless activities that won't. Our industry has a huge problem, and people seem to think that if we throw more bodies or we throw more money at it, that the problem is going to go away. But the issue is systemic, and it's one that lag is going to be 5, 10, 15 years before you start seeing that payoff, which is exactly why, as what you're describing, we have to get that education in place now. Because throwing more bodies at the problem doesn't solve it. I mean, so your company, my understanding is, specializes in hiring senior level and up personnel. So not what I'm going to say newbies to the industry. And there's a lot of benefit to that. But at the same time, we have a lot of other organizations. One I used to work for, so Booz Allen, for example, they really like hiring people fresh out who have no experience. And the claim is that they can turn them into security professionals. And I'll tell you, having been there, I never saw it. I mean, I've never seen it anywhere. I've seen a lot of people say it. I've seen a lot of people claim it. But you have to have a foundation. And that's where I think people keep going wrong, is they think you can just skip to it. I mean, that's the cybersecurity degrees that you see all over the place. Why would you get a bachelor's in cybersecurity? If you don't have computer science, electrical engineering, mathematics, a background like that, you're going to really struggle.
Yeah, one small little note. We don't necessarily specialize in hiring. So you mentioned we hire. So we're not a recruiting firm. We do technical assessments, but just
my apologies. I meant you hire people who are, and your specialty is really having a fleet of senior level personnel. Thank you.
Absolutely. No worries. People are going to be like, if I want to recruit, go to them.
Sure. I can just get temp people from them. No.
So no, but I mean, there are staff aug situations. To me, it's about what's scalable, right? Yeah. So there's lots of different initiatives across the industry. Some are company wide, some are region wide, some are maybe OWASP wide or something, that try and say, we're going to make things better. The classic example I have is Google Project Zero. Right. You have like 30 of the best hackers in the entire freaking planet are on Google Project Zero. And they regularly find amazing ODE and everything you could possibly think of. I think their mandate is kind of ubiquitous, internet-wide common software. Could be servers, could be clients, whatever. And they're great at their job. But if you took 30 of the best compiler engineers in the entire world and you pointed them to all of the compiler infrastructures in LLVM and GCC and some of the frameworks that we use for web apps. Might that be more effective?
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right, and I think maybe one of the big issues, and I mean, we all had to learn and start somewhere, right? I mean, nobody here came out being perfect, senior level anything. We were all junior at some point in our life, but I think
You
there's
junior?
I
You're
I
kidding.
think that's right. I think people have to understand that there are some things that you could and should cut your teeth on, and there are some things that you could and shouldn't. But
Mm.
no matter what, you need to have someone review their work. And really, that's even if you're senior level, because, I mean, we all make mistakes.
And so, would I be confident in somebody who says they have a cybersecurity degree? I guess maybe. One of my friends, a guy named Marcin, been in the industry a long time. He graduated from like that university in Phoenix called University of Advanced Technology, and that really worked for him. So he got that cybersecurity degree specifically from a cybersecurity university, and he ended up being amazing. So I've seen it work, but I've also seen people that graduate from that school that really can't do anything. So I think it comes down to the individual always, the drive, the desire, the motivation to go, not just for what you got point in time, but past that. The best cyber professionals I've seen are always have those things very high.
I
Yeah.
always say that you go to school to learn. That's what I learned. They teach me how to learn.
Mm,
So you have to do more of your stuff outside of the school anyway.
Right.
So whether they have a cybersecurity degree or a computer science degree, it's all about what they do outside of that. So neither do I really like the cybersecurity degrees. I think they're trash. But just looking at them, just being honest, I've looked and seen a lot of them. But I think for most people, it's better to get a good foundation. But if you have the passion and drive, like you said, you can make that work.
Well, and I think the other component to that is some some individuals walk into it with more knowledge and with that passion, and so they're going to take it and actually expand. Like you said, they're going to learn on their own, so they'll expand the data that comes to them, but they'll also have that hunger for, if there's something they don't understand, they try to figure it out, or they'll ask questions and see if they get a little more. I think one of the biggest issues is the quality, the standards aren't there. But having said that, you can go to a fantastic school, a fabulous school, and if you're a bad student, you're not going to get anything from it. Whereas if you are a good student and you go to a bad school, you may still have a chance of coming out okay. That individual really makes a big difference. But yes, I'm personally not a fan of the cybersecurity degrees. Maybe for master's level, not for bachelor's. Not
But
for
you still got to
bachelor's.
think about, are the teachers great? I've been to a lot of different schools, and the teachers don't want to have
Right.
experience in the field.
Right.
A lot of them don't know what they're talking about. And there's several times I've had, question the teacher like, "This is not what that's going on. This is not what we're doing. Like, this doesn't make any sense." I spent more time rewriting, encryption stuff than actually doing real security work. And I didn't understand that. But like I said, a lot of things also have to deal with the people teaching, getting more professionals in there, and as instructors to be able to teach the curriculum, and then look at the curriculum that the colleges have and restructure it, help make it better on, make it more realistic.
I'll give you an example. So maybe 5 blocks from me is New York University's Polytechnic School. So
Oh
where they
yeah,
do comp sci.
yeah.
They put on Seesaw every year, which is their big CTF and academic contest. So they used to have a very very bad program, and I had an intern that was going there, and he got so upset by how bad the program was because he was learning like stuff on online with IRC and all that, and maybe 12 years ago, 13 years ago, somewhere around that, he was going to school undergrad, and he was just so fed up that he went to the head of the CS department and gave him a whole proposal. He's like, here's how we need to revamp our stuff, and like cyber is going to be the future, and let's have industry people teach it because right now we've got these academics that don't really know what they're doing. And it was a shot in the dark, but the head of the CS department, friend of mine, Nasir Memon, he was like, all right, let's give it a shot. So he got myself and like Dino Dizovi and Stephen Ridley and Brandon Edwards and a bunch of all these like great cyber people, and we became the teacher for this like intro to cybersecurity course. And it's now expanded, and now they have like a whole um, faculty of really great security professionals. Brandon and all these other people are there now. So
Awesome.
it's great to see that, you know, that model of now like, hey, industry folks are going to come in here and help. Lots of other universities are doing that, and I'd like to see that.
Well, and I
Yeah, I
think
agree.
more and more universities are thankfully sort of doing that. Some of the ones in our area, though, have been very reticent. They don't
Nah,
listen.
that
They
nah.
keep asking industry, you know, what would it take for you to hire more of our folks? How could we make them better? And we'll respond, businesses will respond, and then they just do nothing. And I don't understand that, because it's literally their job to prepare students for what comes next. And I don't know. That's its own topic. I'm a little disenfranchised with a lot of the universities, unfortunately, and the caliber that they're putting out.
A lot of them probably don't care. I hadn't had that situation a lot where, even when I was in school, I had a lot of different internships. They were asking me to help people get into different fields. I was able to get into any of them. And also helping the security program. I was working on a hardware security program, but then embedded systems, all of that. And, the biggest problem was it was just too many chiefs and not enough Indians. Nobody wanted to really listen to each other, and they wanted to be the person that think they know it all. And I'm the youngest person out there. I think I was like, what, 26, 25. Everybody's older than me. It's like, listen to this kid. And I'm like, been hacking since I was 7 years old. So I'm talking to a bunch of people that didn't know what they were talking about. So they didn't really care. And then it was also about money. What should we put our money on? Is cybersecurity something that we really should put our money on? And that's what I heard a lot. Like, no, we should put our money here. And then they never put the money there. Whatever, even if it's computer science, like there's not a lot of good computer science course like areas, like, or schools at all. They'll say they're great, but then when you really go actually look at the material and then you get out and try to get a job, you're like, oh, I don't know none of this. They don't have anything to teach me none of that. And you have to figure it out on your own. A lot of my stuff was learned on my own.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
One thing I would love to see is not just academia. So we've been talking a lot about academia, but going back to that idea said, like, what's Google and Microsoft going to do with all that investment? I really am a fan of what's his face, Zeno's open security training. Have you guys seen that?
yeah,
So I believe he now is not working anywhere full time, and he's working on that exclusively to improve that since last year. And I would love to take all of that open security training and turning it into like an online curriculum platform, and having the large companies out in the valley sponsor that, give Zeno or another organization money. And it's not even a ton of money. Like you could
No.
do this for probably $1 to $10 million, and that's a line. That's just a rounding error for all these companies. Um, $1 to $10 million, global platform. Just make it available for people to self learn. So it's not just organized academia, but just having platforms where people self learn. I find a lot of people are motivated, non traditional folks, like this bar I go to in Greenwich Village. The bartender, I'm like, what did you do undergrad? She's like, bioinformatics. I'm like, and you've been a bartender for here 10 years after you graduated with a bioinformatics degree, and you were writing Python. Like, would you like to do security? She's like, yeah, sure. Like, point me at stuff. I point her at some stuff. She learned it immediately. Like, how do we find those people and give them the path of like, here's how to learn? I didn't say do this. You have to do this. She just had the motivation, and I pointed her in the right direction. She knocked it out. Um,
yeah.
so I would love to see just open curriculums, open training, to just give people that have the motivation some sort of direction.
I agree. I agree. That's kind of like a con for cybersecurity. I don't know if you've seen Khan Academy, but eh,
Yes.
and it realistically, I think Khan Academy wound up getting a fair bit of sponsorship from different organizations. And it would be nice to see governments pump money into it, commercial entities pump money into it, because the government would be a huge benefactor of this for obvious reasons, and not just our government, many governments. But you would also see all of these corporations just have a huge boon, and it would be nice to see if your software developers could be properly educated on basic security. That would go a huge way if we had a pathway for them. And I know I get a lot of people asking me, well, what books do you suggest? What books do you suggest? And that's always been a struggle for me, because I've read a lot of cybersecurity books, and the vast majority are terrible, absolutely horrible. They are either so beginner it's not funny and you don't learn anything, or they try to cover the spectrum and wind up achieving nothing. Nobody is satiated. And that's why, like, I mean, I still point to the two big ones for me. One of them is from 2012, the last edition, and of course that's Hacking Exposed. Excuse me, Hacking Exposed, and then the Hacker Playbook is the other one. I was trying to mix the two subjects.
What about them all having the same stuff?
Yes, they
Like
do.
Like the Bug Bounty Boot Camp, the
they
real
just
world
copy.
bug hunting.
Yeah,
All the same stuff.
That's been around for a while. I wrote a book under O'Reilly called Network Security Tools, maybe like, I don't know, 18 years ago, with some other co-authors that I worked with. And one of those co-authors went on to write some other books, and I read his other books, and I was like, you literally copy and pasted paragraphs from book A to book B, like 2 books that you wrote, and you just copy and pasted your own stuff from one book to the other. Like, why would you do that? And he's just like, but that was do you remember Singress Publishing? I think they're renamed, but that they were all Singress books, and like Singress was just known for like copying, pasting, and horrible content and just low quality content. I think they renamed themselves something else because their rep was so bad. But
yeah, no, you're exactly right. And I've always wondered why they do that, but I mean, I get that it saves your time. Yes, exactly.
They're lazy. They're just trying to get the titles out, right?
That's right. That's right. Well, and I don't even think you make that much money from publishing books. At least that's what I've always been told.
It is true. Although these days the ratio does change now that you have online only. But then people are using publishers less because you have the ability to self-publish.
Right.
But as we said before, I think I would like to see a book where it goes like a lot of people have the standard books they go to see how to get into pen testing, your beginning, your start, your methodology. Let's go over some different techniques. But it's a lot of different ways you can skin a cat, right? So there's different ways you can do different things. Let's go over different techniques. There are other vulnerabilities to talk about, especially when we're talking about APIs and different stuff. Like there are other things out there that we can talk about and talk about the same stuff. And they're not just the only common thing, especially if you're reading bug bounty reports, if you do read those, or if you are on a pen test engagement. There are a lot of different things I find that I don't even see discussed. And I would like to see those.
Question to you guys. What is the book that we're missing in AppSec right now?
Oh, we're missing the Ryan and Ron book and your book. Like we're missing our own playbook. And I see where you're going there. I see where you're going there, because I don't know if you're having the same issue that I'm seeing, but it is bad.
So
go ahead.
Web App Hackers Handbook, right? It's the Bible, right? Everyone, we give it to everyone when they're junior, when they're learning up, people that want to cross train from other parts of the industry, IT or whatever. That's my Bible. I give it to them, and I'm like, this is it. That book was written over 10 years ago. And the last version came out over 10 years ago, I believe. And the authors, I have spoken to the original authors, they don't want to update it anymore. They're done. So Hacking Exposed was like a 20-year series, and they updated it every 4 years, I believe. But the Web App Hackers Handbook guys, they did version 1, version 2, and they're done. We need whether it's in name, like actually part of that same series or whatever, we just need Web App Hacker Handbook 3, because like there's so much that's come out in the last 10 years, right? WebSockets haven't been touched. Like any new language for Go's not in there. Like nothing's covered that is new and recent. Like cores isn't covered in any notable fashion. There's just so much new that we need a new Web App Hackers Handbook to just cover stuff from the last 10 years, just to cover that.
It's funny because I didn't like the Web App Hackers Handbook. I never recommend it, but I do tell people if you want to look at things, especially if you're into web, and that's a great thing.
What's your go-to?
My go-to is research. I don't go to any book. I like to play.
Yeah.
I tell people the best way to learn is to play. You know, when I'm doing an assessment and I'm in Burp or I'm in any proxy, I'm going through and playing with each request, all of these requests, depending on the time.
Web Security Academy.
I mean, that's cool. That's not too bad. If I was starting somebody and you're using Burp, that'd be cool. That I don't really have a go-to. That was me and Duran was talking about. There's no go-to for me. Like, especially if we're talking about even more advanced steps.
Yeah.
You know, after you get to a certain level, okay, what do you go to? And a lot of these things that I complained about this when we were at Highland, and the boss was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get you in touch with the OSCP people," and I'm like, their stuff was not good. I paid all this money and it was outdated. It's not something I'm actually using. And even their web stuff, I'm like, they don't even have the up-to-date stuff in there. Now they did put some stuff in there currently, but there's still things missing. And now people are going to those and thinking they can learn some things. But yeah, I would give the Web Academy, I think Burp, they have a decent amount of stuff that it has a lot of different variety and different vulnerabilities in there. But the biggest thing to me is once you get to that point, what's the next step? What about the most advanced topics? How do you utilize this and do other things, which is things that we want to cover on our own channel. Like this is what you can use this vulnerability to do and set up for this, you know? So I do agree that that is a big problem, but then you have other problems with other things. You know, AppSec is a broad term. Like, so, you know, what about the clients? Nobody's talking about that. There's a scarf of information out there. What books are out there? What about IoT? I see a few of them, but they're not as good. They don't get in and cover things that we need to talk about. And I do a lot of that. So what about that? You know, there's a lot of things that they don't cover, and we need that. And I'm seeing a lot of people who are getting an AppSec, or people that are supposed to be AppSec people or not AppSec people, and they don't know how to do any of it. There's no guide. There's barely any information. You get a little bit of stuff, but you can't go from there. You don't understand it.
Yeah, completely agree.
I think, and this is fairly to your point, one of the biggest issues we have. So one of the great things about Hacking Exposed, which I think is why it managed to last as long as it did, was that it was so diverse. And for application security, I don't think we have that. I don't think we have a book that is as diverse, but at the same time goes into as much depth. I mean, especially the last edition of Hacking Exposed even integrated some of the hardware stuff. And yes, I know it's, again, 2012, so it's old, but the concepts still port over fairly nicely for the most part.
Thanks.
And I think what maybe we need is a book that helps people understand it's not about the minutia, it's not about the specific vulnerabilities. Take Log4j's issues, for example. I mean, that is the most basic input validation and sanitization issue ever. And by golly, they didn't learn that lesson with Struts 2. They didn't learn that lesson with Apache. They didn't learn that lesson with Tomcat. They didn't learn it with Jakarta. Well, I don't know what they've learned it in, but they keep getting beaten with the same thing.
So here's the thing that just cracks me up is this is one of the top 10 most used jars of all of Java. And Java, we would say, is a pretty well-used ecosystem. There is every security company out there missed this.
Yes.
Like all the static analysis companies, all the dependency analysis companies, everybody, all the independent consultants, all the corporate folk, even Google, like everybody missed this. So sometimes you're just like, why do I even try?
Yes. What have I been doing? Well, okay, so that's actually a good point, and that's something I've complained about recently, is there's this mantra that open source is inherently more secure because you've got a million eyes on it. And I've always sat there and I've said, a million eyes doesn't mean anything if they're all looking at the same place.
The wrong way.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. That is exactly right. And I know I had actually complained and pointed out that they had a format string vulnerability a long time ago there. And I was actually told it was a feature and that I was wrong. And interestingly enough, taking this a little further, we complained to, so OWASP had created Antisamy, which was an anti-cross-site scripting library. It was a piece of garbage. I'm gonna... It was terribly written. So I pointed out shortly before they killed it that it had, in fact, a huge vulnerability where there's no way to block body tags. It always accepted body tags with on mouse over, on load, whatever makes you happy. And then they killed the project and they instead pushed to HTML sanitizer. I think it's the one they're going for now.
Mhm.
Well, I went through and complained about that, saying, you guys, the way they have HTML sanitizer now, if you have a page that takes in mixed content, and by mixed content, I mean both text and HTML, then there's nothing I can do. I'm guaranteed to have cross-site scripting on that particular page because of the way they always encode certain things like the @ symbol. And there's no way to turn that off. So either one, I take a guess and hope that I've gotten everything that they encode and manually just do a find and replace, which is terrible, terrible. Or two, I do what most people do, and that is HTML encode, decode, run it, and then decode again, which means you're now vulnerable to cross-site scripting. And they sat there and they said, no, this is a feature. We want it this way. I'm like, that's not how this works.
You know? They always do that.
And it's okay to do that if you do a design pattern like React did.
Yes.
React was like, okay, we have some bad ideas here. Let's call them dangerously set.
Yes.
You know, like if you say some of these bad patterns we know are bad, so let's just name them as such, then that's okay. It's in the docs. You can grep through it or lint through it easily, and there you go.
Right. I don't know.
But they still, you know, I think developers, they do that a lot. You tell them something is just because it's a feature doesn't mean it's secure. You know, and they're like, oh yeah, but this is intended. No, this is not good. You know, and when you know it's not good, they still don't go into fixing it or putting in documentation like you just said. But they think that they can get away with that and everything's all good because it's a feature.
And going on the topic of like, hey, this was a feature, but now we had to convince them that it's bad. Remember maybe 8-9 years ago, Igor Homakov had to basically own github.com to prove to them that you shouldn't allow like variable overwriting in your Rails classes. So he wrote the Rails team. The Rails team's like, feature, not a bug. Don't worry about this. He's like, no, this is seriously bad. Everyone screws this up. And he had to do the commit to show that he could own GitHub with it. And then they were like, okay, well now we're going to change it. And that's the fundamental thing. Is just like people don't think about security on all these frameworks.
Yes.
And even going back to what we were talking about earlier, in the books, yes, there's security books, whether they're good or bad, they're security books. But all the non-security books, all of the how to write software, like learn how to do Rails, learn how to do Java, none of those have security or well security vetted. All their examples have XSS. All of them have like hard-coded secrets. Like they're just all bad examples.
Yes.
So just everyone does this. It's going to perpetuate. So again, going back to that $30 billion from Google and Microsoft, I want them to go and push to the whole industry. Let's publish correct documentation. Let's publish secure documentation.
Yes.
And like make an initiative around it across everything.
Secure coding.
Yes, I
Every
completely
time.
agree. I completely agree. It would be phenomenal. Because people do ask. They say, "Oh, well, I want to learn how to code. What books should I read?" Don't read any of the books. For God's sake, they're the worst. Don't go there.
Well, yeah, I mean, and you can't go to school either. You can't
No.
do it in school. You can't do it anywhere because nobody
Yeah.
teaches you secure coding. You kind of have to just learn it
Yeah.
somehow by like trial and error.
Osmosis.
There's a couple crazy schools out there like CMU, NYU, USBC that really do mandate security as a course for all CS. But that's like I can count on one or two hands how many schools in the whole US do that, let alone the world.
Yeah.
If we can get if they could get a movement going, that might entice other people to do that. But we know, and for a fact or not, and it's just not going to change, not anytime soon. And as much as we would like to see it happen, it's just not.
It's so possible though, especially with all the numbers that they're talking about.
Yeah, I mean it is. If you can get everybody, like remember when they had that everyone code day or that whole push for everybody coding, we can do that with everybody. Secure things or security, like that would be awesome. And that would probably help.
When I was in undergrad, Microsoft went and had what do you call them? Ambassadors. Microsoft had ambassadors at every single major university in the US, and they were .NET ambassadors. They were trying to get undergrad students hyped up on .NET, and they went around and they had events where you could learn, have free food, and it was crazy amazing. Why not ambassadors for security and just push that out everywhere? It would cost many millions of dollars, but if you've got it, like awesome, let's do it.
Right. Supposedly that's what's going to be spent, right?
Right.
I would like to see a little. I would like to see some planning on their part. Unfortunately, I suspect a lot of it's going to be hijacked pretty quickly.
They should give it to us, the three of us.
Yeah, I know. I was just gonna say that.
No questions asked. No receipts given.
I mean, they honestly should open it to grants, right? Yeah. Open it to grant proposals. Do like a cyber fast track. Like, hey, Google's going to give out $100 million. What's your proposal? Like, just really cool ideas could come from industry.
That they should. Awesome. When they do that, I think they should make sure that they vet those carefully, though, to keep the fluff out. So, I mean, academia and the business world is big on just baloney, absolute baloney. And you look at it and you're like the whole, oh, well, we're going to have a firewall that will use AI and it's going to be adaptive. And I'm like, but if you've been owned already, then what the hell's, well, yeah, but it'll learn real quickly that you're a bad guy. After you've already been compromised. I mean, all I have to do is trusted action, trusted action, trusted action, act like a good guy, and then bam. And off to the races it is, and your silly idea breaks down. And that was the whole, then the idea behind, well, zero trust, that model doesn't work, so we're going to just say trust no one, which I actually have no issue with up until they'd say and assume breach. And I'm like, that's like assuming you've been screwed, to put it.
But you don't like that? Come on, man. They got to find some way to make money. Every time you say that, it kind of gets me back when I worked at IBM, and all I heard all day was assume breach. Assume breach, and we went on a rabbit hole of hunting just to assume breach for an hour each day. That tormented me a lot. I don't appreciate the torment.
Because it really is living in a constant state of fear.
Yes.
Yeah, it's tough because if you don't have that mindset, then you're gonna get caught. But if you do have that mindset, you'll get tired.
Right.
Even if you have the mindset in the field, like especially as a defensive person, you're at risk of getting fired. Because if you don't and somebody compromises, I'm the main one in trouble. And I'm like, okay, I can lose my job because I didn't assume breach. And I wasn't actually doing my due diligence to actually do that, which we talked about in one episode about this threat hunting thing. But at the same time, that was horrible because every day I'm like, I come in, I got to make sure I'm doing this an hour a day. And then I'm a night owl, so I'm doing it at night as well. So it was just terrifying.
So I think that leads into actually another bit of hilarity, gaiety, whatever you want to call it within our industry. So if you screw up on an engagement, and I'm going to use the word screw up, and I'm purposefully picking a bombastic term because we all know it's ridiculous. But if you screw up and miss a finding, people blow a gasket like you're some kind of perfect god. How dare you? This
You suck.
vulnerability existed. Yeah, you suck.
That's what that you suck. That's why did oh man.
I've never understood that. Why? Who's setting these expectations? How does everyone walk away thinking we're going to find every vulnerability?
I've thought about this, and my answer is going to surprise you, but it's our fault. It is
Yeah.
our fault. Here's why. Because we don't set those expectations. We just say, you're getting a pen test. Here's the things we're going to do.
Yes.
We hardly ever, and I'm talking about the security consulting assessment,
right.
pen testing world. We hardly ever say, this is the level of rigor that we're doing. And on a histogram scale, we're looking for 1 sigma, 2 sigma, 3 sigma. This is like what we're trying to find. And the long tail here, we're not looking for. So we're looking for 99% or 85% or 60% of the vulns. And that is the time and effort trade-off and
Right.
balance that you are paying for. Nobody does that. IncludeSec does that, but nobody else does that.
It's funny that you said that, and we've had to talk about an engagement I was on where, and a while ago, where they wanted everything in the kitchen sink, but they only give you 2 weeks, and then it says in when you're looking at, even in the contract, even on the report, that we're not going to find everything. It's in like big print that we're looking for certain things. You start, for the really critical things, and we'll go down the list. But they didn't care about that. They didn't even read that. And a lot of people don't read reports. They don't really read it, which is why I get pissed off at the narratives that we need to talk about reporting. But they don't read the shit. So then I have to tell, and I started telling every client that I work with that, hey, when I'm on this kickoff call, that I'm going to search for these, critical all the way down, because it's what they're concerned about, critical, highs, medium. They don't give a shit about the lows. And I say that there's a chance that I'm not going to find everything in 1 week. Attackers have months, years. I only have a week. And there's a chance I'm not going to find everything. Now, if you give me more time, which equals more money, I can, try to find as much as I can. And even then, I'm still not going to find everything. So, I always have to tell them, because they don't read it.
Yeah.
They never read it, and I have to say it.
Well, and for us, it starts right on scoping. Like with scoping for us, we put those levers right on there, and you can turn it here or you can turn it there. So we put it right there, scoping. It's mentioned on the first call. It's mentioned on kickoff calls. It's mentioned in the reports. It's like, you can't miss it.
Yes.
You guys are awesome. I wish they would do that on the scoping. That would be great, because that way I don't, as a consultant, don't have to worry about doing it.
Well, and that's definitely something that I've always made sure our reports emphasize. And like, Ronald, you've seen some of my reports. It emphasizes, okay, well, first of all, these are just examples. So I never do exhaustive lists of everything that I find. I will categorize, group it together, and then I will say, okay, well, here are your examples. And then here's the ensuing code or what have you. Because what I want, so often people will look at it and they'll say, you have 6 examples, so there are only 6 instances. If I do this, then it's no, these are examples. It's your job to take the pattern and then find the other instances. It was my job not to enumerate every instance, because that's a waste of my time. That's a waste of their money. That's a waste of everyone's time. And then, as you were saying, we set within that scope, okay, well, we're going to be looking for this, this, and this. And in general, expect to see these kinds of things. What you're not going to see is some crazy who knows what. If we're doing, and I come out and I say, okay, well, you want us to go at it like we're a nation state, then it's going to take this period of time, and we're going to look at these kinds of issues. We will cover cryptography, whereas if it's not nation state, maybe we're a little lighter on cryptography. And because most other people aren't going to actually try to break your ciphers, but usually.
But see, you seem to have more flexibility. I don't get that flexibility. Like, it's like this is what we're like. By the time I even get to seeing what the scope looks like, I'm already on the kickoff call, and they're telling me that this is what we have to do, and I'm like, there's no fucking way I'm gonna be able to do this in 1 week. Like, nobody can even talk to me about it. Like,
do I get 2 more people with me?
Right. No, it's I'm and I guess that comes with the territory of being somebody that can do all of that. I would seem to be able to do all of the things, and it's kind of like, well, you got it, you can do this. No, I can't. Like, I know even if I can do it all, there's no in that amount of time, there's no way I can get it.
Yeah.
And
but it also comes to the beginning of the process with sales, right?
Yeah.
Every single consulting company's salesperson is going to say, we're going to do everything in a small amount of time.
Right.
And if you like strategically tell them we can't do this, it brings more honesty, it brings more level setting of expectations, but you will have clients that you will lose.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's hard to sell that to a sales team and say, but theoretically, the more honest you are, the more upfront you are, the better you set expectations, the more happy everyone will be. The client will be, the consulting company will be. So I kind of go through that, but I have lost clients because I tell them on a scoping call, I cannot do 250,000 lines of Java in 2 weeks with one person, right? Or even the 5 people, right? You can't do that.
Right.
And then they're just like, okay, well, we're gonna find somebody. A Rapid7 said they can't, right? Like, okay, sure, dude.
Yeah,
Sure they will.
No, that's unrealistic expectations. Like,
and
it's crazy.
I'm happy to lose that to some other consulting company whose salesperson is setting that unrealistic expectation because that they're providing false assurance, and it's not something that I want to sell.
Yes. Yes.
And I wish the whole industry understood that.
I completely agree. It's hard on your people. It opens them up to potential litigation. You violated, breach contract. You didn't do it. You said you'd look at all of this, and you missed the fact that we're, running a search for $ curly bracket, and we just execute everything. Eval, run eval.
I want to find like the deep log4j. So not the surface level stuff, because everyone's just hitting up every website that's out there. But I want to see the people that are dropping the log4j payloads in API calls.
Yes. I completely agree. That's something I noticed was you see all this garbage, and they're going to miss most systems with this problem because they're just injecting it straight to the index. Whatever responds, we'll send it as part of the get. Well, you've got to trigger some kind of error. In most cases, I mean, obviously it depends on if they have debugging on or if they just log because they think it's funny. I don't know. But the other component, and to your point, is everyone's so focused on JNDI, and I keep saying it's not just JNDI. Why? Like I keep seeing people check your logs, and here's the regular expression to do it. And you look at the regular expression, I'm like, this doesn't work against most instances that people are running. Because it's literally $ curly bracket JNDI : and then they have LDAP RMI, and I think jar is the other one I usually see in the regular expression. It's like that misses most of what people are doing, because right off the bat people were like, oh well, I can also do $ curly bracket lower J and oh, I can hit context and all this other stuff. And as you know, if you have custom logging, your problems are considerably worse. If you've gone through and created custom configuration with custom lookups, I mean, heaven help you.
But Duran, I mean, people are trying to get a bounty. Like, come on now, they don't care about that, right? They're trying to get bounties out here, more dollars. They're trying to get more money. But yeah, I think that again, it goes back to what we were saying. People are just going around. I've seen a lot of people just going around hitting whatever they can find just to say they did it, or they can get some money off of it, report it. It just,
I'm waiting for
they're missing.
It's very interesting watching all the bug bounty programs, because they're competing financially against their own crowd.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
if they can write a scanner and find it on all their programs before the crowd does, then they can get the reports in, and then they save themselves and their customers money on having to pay out the crowd.
Yes.
Because I remember this from back in what was it, Magic Shell or Magic Shock or some crap like that. One of those from like 4 or 5 years ago. Every bug bounty person got paid out for finding the same bug on all the active programs. And they were like, oh, they learned from that, because they're like, oh man, we had to pay out all these people for all of our programs for the same bug.
Yes.
And now they're a little reticent to do that.
Yes. I don't know. I'm honestly, I really don't like the whole bug bounty thing, but that's me.
For better or worse, it's here to stay. I mean, there were three or four original ones, and now there's like over a dozen worldwide major platforms. So it's here to stay. But I've been surprised that their lobbying efforts haven't been more effective on the major compliance and standards. Like, I for sure thought by now they would have been in PCI DSS and OWASP standards and things like that to replace pen testing or to be equivalent of pen testing. But they haven't been as effective in their lobbying efforts as I thought they'd be.
Which is good, because they're definitely not equivalent, and they're definitely not a replacement. Not even close.
I mean, we know that.
Yes. Not because we make money off of it.
It's inherently a different activity with a different set of motivations and goals that provides a different assurance profile, and that's it.
Yes, you
But
also
a lot
have a
of
different
companies don't.
guarantee of capabilities. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying a lot of companies don't get that though.
Yeah.
We had that same issue with it, where we were at.
Yes.
And they were like, oh, we should start a bug bounty program, and and they're gonna be the new thing. And I'm like, and you had some talks with people saying, oh, well, we don't need pen testers if we do this. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, some of these people are they only focus on one particular thing. They don't even have the whole scope and knowledge of how to do an actual pen test. Some of them do. Some of them do it as a daily job. Some of them don't. And I know a lot of them that don't. Man, you're missing a whole surface area.
You are, and they also don't find the more complicated things, because it's not worth it. The bounty is $5,000, $10,000, and that's on a good one. And so if I go through and I come up with something really creative that passes through, I see nothing. I see nothing with regard to my efforts as compared to if I ran a scanner and you just happened to get flagged for some ridiculously simple thing, but I got 500 different people. So it's not worth the customized examination. And I think that's something a lot of people neglect. And to your point, it's the level of talent and skill is not only inconsistent, but it tends to be very low. The bar is very low.
So look at Santiago Lopez. He was the first guy on HackerOne platform to hit $1 million. And his secret to success is scaling. And he only looks for auth-z vulns. That's it. He looks for nothing else.
Yes.
And he gets on every program. He has really amazing scanners that he enriches with information from his interaction with the site. And he just does auth-z vulns. He gets paid like between $200 and $2,000 for each auth-z vuln. And then that's it. Gets on a program, gets 5 quick ones, and then bam, next one. He looks for nothing else.
Yes.
So the wisdom of crowds is only in that you will have enough people that all have their one thing that they're looking for, that all hit it together. That's the only way that you'll have truly the wisdom of crowds, which doesn't always happen.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Well,
anyways.
Unfortunately, it's probably about time. This has been fantastic. It's been a lot of fun. I hope everyone else has enjoyed it as well. I've enjoyed our conversation, and I hope we get to do it again.
Yeah, we definitely have to talk about reporting.
Yes.
Yes. We have to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Bring me on again. Great talking to you guys. Had a lot of fun.
All right. Well, I'm Ranio.
I'm Duran.
And that's Erik. All right. You guys have a good one. Till next time.
Have fun.
Take care.